The fluorescent lights of Unity Grove Elementary hummed, casting a pale glow on the freshly mopped floors. It was a Tuesday, much like any other, the air filled with the distant chatter of children and the rhythmic squeak of Mr. Jackson's cleaning cart. But today, something felt different. Ms. Combs, with her usual stack of essays waiting to be graded, and Ms. MacDonald, known for her empathetic heart and usually found organizing the lost and found, were huddled together near the window, their whispers barely audible above the cafeteria din. They had been watching, waiting for the right moment. And today, it seemed, that moment had arrived. Chris Jackson was a fixture at Unity Grove, a quiet presence who seemed to blend into the background, yet was always there, a steady hand ensuring the school ran smoothly. He was a man of few words, his weathered hands and kind, slightly tired eyes telling a story of quiet resilience. "Mr. Jackson," Ms. Combs began, her voice a touch lower than usual, a nervous flutter in her chest betraying her calm facade. She exchanged a quick, almost imperceptible glance with Ms. MacDonald, who offered a tiny, reassuring nod. "Could you step outside with us for a moment? We need to talk to you. It's important." Chris looked up, his brow furrowed with a mixture of curiosity and concern. He had never been singled out like this before. A knot of anxiety, a familiar companion these days, tightened in his stomach. He slowly put down his mop, the squeaking ceasing, leaving a sudden, almost palpable silence. The walk to the parking lot felt longer than usual, each step echoing in the unusual quiet. The cheerful sounds of children playing on the nearby playground seemed distant and muffled, filtered through a growing sense of unease. The afternoon sun beat down, making Chris's worn uniform cling to his back, a discomfort he usually ignored. He tried to decipher the teacher's expressions, searching for a clue, a hint of what this unexpected meeting was about. But their faces were unreadable, a careful blend of determination and something else he couldn't quite place, a softness, perhaps. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic drumbeat of apprehension echoing in his ears. "What have I done?" he thought, his mind racing, a whirlwind of self-doubt and worry. "Have I missed something? Made a mistake? Overlooked a spill?" He replayed the events of the past few weeks in his head, meticulously searching for any infraction, any sign of trouble, any reason for this summons. But he couldn't find anything. The thought of losing his job, his only steady source of income, the lifeline that kept his small family afloat, sent a wave of cold panic through him. He swallowed hard, trying to moisten his suddenly dry throat. They stopped in front of a gleaming, cherry-red Ford Focus, its paint sparkling in the sunlight, reflecting the clear blue sky like a mirror. It wasn't a luxury car, by any means, but it was new, reliable, and a world away from the battered, rust-eaten pickup truck Chris had been painstakingly nursing along for years. The Ford seemed to radiate a sense of possibility, a stark contrast to the constant struggle that had become his reality. Ms. MacDonald, her hand slightly trembling, held out her hand. A small, silver key ring, holding a single, shiny Ford key, dangled from her fingers. The keys glinted, catching the light like tiny beacons of hope in the otherwise ordinary school parking lot. Chris stared at the keys, his eyes wide with a growing disbelief, his brain struggling to process the scene unfolding before him. His hands, calloused and worn from years of manual labor, trembled as he reached out, hesitantly, as if afraid to touch them, afraid this was all a dream that would shatter with the slightest contact. This is for me?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper, a fragile thread of sound in the vastness of the afternoon. He stumbled back a step, his legs suddenly feeling weak and unsteady, as if the ground beneath him had shifted. He put a hand to his chest, over his rapidly beating heart, trying to steady himself, to regain some semblance of control. Tears, unbidden and unexpected, welled up in his eyes, blurring his vision, making the shiny red car shimmer and distort. He shook his head slowly, back and forth, unable to fully comprehend what was happening, the sheer improbability of it all. I don't understand," he managed to say, his voice choked with a mix of shock, overwhelming gratitude, and a lingering disbelief that threatened to overwhelm him. He turned away, unable to meet the teacher's gaze, overcome by a wave of emotion so powerful it threatened to buckle his knees. The weight of the past few years, the constant worry, the endless struggle, seemed to lift, replaced by a lightness he hadn't felt in what seemed like a lifetime. It had all started, subtly, with seemingly insignificant observations. Ms. Combs, always perceptive, had noticed Chris taking shorter lunch breaks, often skipping them altogether, opting instead to meticulously clean the already spotless cafeteria. Then, one crisp autumn evening, Ms. McDonald, working late on a parent-teacher conference, had seen Chris's truck parked in the school lot long after everyone else had gone home. The interior light was on, casting a dim, lonely glow, and she could see him hunched over in the driver's seat, his head in his hands. A later, almost accidental, conversation with a colleague in the staff room revealed the heartbreaking truth. Chris had been struggling to make ends meet after a series of unexpected and devastating medical bills related to his late wife's illness. He was facing eviction, struggling to put food on the table for his 2 young children, and his ancient truck was on its last legs. They started discreetly, sharing their concerns with a few trusted colleagues, teachers and staff members they knew they could count on. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive, a testament to the tight-knit community that thrived within the walls of Unity Grove Elementary. Teachers, staff, and even some parents, touched by Chris's quiet dedication and his unspoken struggles, quietly contributed to a fund, pooling their resources, determined to help the man who had always been there for them. They organized bake sales, their tables laden with homemade goodies, car washes on sunny Saturday mornings, where students and teachers alike scrubbed and polished with enthusiastic energy, and even a discreet online donation drive, all carefully orchestrated to avoid embarrassing Chris. There were moments of doubt, of course, times when they wondered if they could raise enough money to truly make a difference, to lift the burden that weighed so heavily on Chris's shoulders. But they persevered, driven by their deep compassion for Chris and their unwavering belief in the power of their small, but incredibly strong, community. Chris himself, they knew, was a widower, raising his 2 young children, a bright-eyed girl named Lily and a mischievous boy named Sam, on his own. His wife, Sarah, had passed away 3 years earlier after a courageous battle with a rare illness, leaving him with a mountain of medical debt and the sole responsibility of caring for their young family. He worked tirelessly, taking on extra shifts whenever he could, juggling his responsibilities at the school with the demands of single parenthood. But it was never quite enough. He was constantly worried about making rent, about putting healthy food on the table, about providing for his children's needs, about keeping their small world stable and secure. He had always been a proud man, fiercely independent, never one to ask for help, even when he was drowning in a sea of worry and exhaustion. He believed in hard work and self-reliance, the values his own parents had instilled in him. But he was reaching his breaking point, the constant strain taking its toll. Ms. Combs and McDonald spent 2 weekends searching local car dealerships. They were determined to find something that fit their criteria. The first few dealerships were out of their price range, until they arrived at a small, family-owned dealership just outside of town. The owner was the father to a little girl who attended 2nd grade, and on hearing the story, offered them a significant discount. Chris was overwhelmed, speechless, by the sheer, unexpected generosity of the school community, a community he had served faithfully for years, often unnoticed, always appreciated. He couldn't find the words, adequate words, to express the depth of his gratitude, the profound impact this act of kindness had on him. He hugged Ms. Combs and Ms. McDonald tightly, tears streaming down his face, his weathered cheeks flushed with emotion. I don't know what to say," he stammered, his voice thick with unshed tears. Thank you all, from the very bottom of my heart. This changes everything." He promised, his voice filled with a newfound determination, to pay it forward, to help others in need whenever and however he could, to honor the incredible gift he had been given. The story of Chris and the car spread throughout the school, and even beyond into the wider community, like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope and inspiration. It inspired a wave of kindness and generosity, creating a stronger sense of unity and compassion than ever before. Students, moved by the story, started their own fundraising initiatives, collecting donations for local charities, organizing food drives for families in need, and volunteering their time at local shelters. The teachers and staff felt a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper understanding of the profound impact they could have, not only on their students' education but also on the lives of those around them. The car, that shiny red Ford Focus, was more than just a vehicle. It was a symbol of hope, a tangible representation of the community's love and support, a lifeline that pulled Chris out of a dark place of worry and despair. It allowed him to get to work more easily and reliably, to take his children on weekend outings to the park or the lake, to feel a sense of freedom and independence he hadn't felt in years, since before Sarah's illness had cast a long shadow over their lives. His financial situation, while still challenging, improved significantly. He was finally able to start paying down his debts, to put a little money aside for savings, to breathe a little easier, knowing he had a safety net, a community that cared. He became an even more dedicated and valued member of the Unity Grove Elementary family, always willing to go the extra mile, his smile a little brighter, his step a little lighter. The story of Chris Jackson and the two teachers at Unity Grove Elementary is a powerful testament to the enduring power of human kindness, the profound impact a small, caring community can have on one person's life, and how giving can change someone's life. It's a gentle, yet powerful, reminder that even in the darkest of times, when the weight of the world seems unbearable, hope can blossom in the most unexpected places, and that a single act of generosity, born of compassion and empathy, can change everything. It showed that a little light can go a long way.